The prep I did was 10 weeks.
John Meadows and Matt Porter, two of the greatest coaches that the bodybuilding's ever seen, and unfortunately no longer with us, but have left us with so much wisdom and knowledge that we would like to share with you guys.
You've got people there, they got 6 packs 10 weeks before the show, and I'm walking around with belly.
Do you really think that how you get into shape for a contest is drugs, 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 drugs?
I didn't use any tests for the prep. I'll share my cycle. I'll take a screenshot of it. It was the lowest I ever used. It was the best I've ever felt. I actually got stronger through the prep.
He's panicking. He's thinking, I can't get into shape. Matt puts his food up. What did you think at that point?
John changed my training every training session.
Oh God, the scientists have gone mad. They say you can't confuse a muscle.
So Matt wanted me to train 7 days a week.
And cardio every single day.
For the whole of the 10 weeks, I never felt like I needed a rest day.
I personally would be very reluctant to take somebody on at 10 weeks because that's your fucking name on the line.
I messaged 3 or 4 other coaches, good coaches, and they all rejected me.
A mistake that a lot of competitors make is thinking that cutting water is going to make them drier. You can't outsmart your body.
10 weeks of my life changed my life for the future. It's incredible. But that shows how that change could be there waiting for you.
Jesus said, yes, guys, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you've had a positive day. Today's podcast is a very, very special one because today we get to celebrate 2 of the greatest coaches that have existed in the bodybuilding world that unfortunately are no longer with us, but really and truly pioneered online coaching to a whole new level. So I want to make that clear because even though we're going to talk about Ayub's contest prep, which was his best contest prep ever, we also want to pay homage, right, to John Meadows and Matt Porter, 2 of the greatest coaches that the bodybuilding's ever seen, and 2 guys that unfortunately no longer with us, but have left us with so much wisdom and knowledge that we would like to share with you guys. So in today's podcast, we're going to be covering Ayub's Ayub's contest prep, which led him to the best condition that he's ever had and winning an overall in the Miami Pro, which earned him his pro card. So, Ayub, let's start from the beginning of your prep. Tell us where you were at that time, what you were doing, and how it all began with Matt and John.
So that prep was something that I didn't actually set out to do. I was in a very difficult space in my life. I wasn't training really well, didn't have anything, wasn't the focus on the gym, the diet was off. Yeah. Right? And I needed something to get myself back into training, needed something to get myself back to that regiment that makes me a better person.
Yeah.
So I picked a show, and I picked a show which was the closest to me, right? In terms of travel, but also in terms of duration.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do a long, drawn-out 6-month cut, and I just wanted to get something locked in that I knew I had to dedicate myself to.
Yeah.
Given the time frame that I had, I decided to do a show around 16 weeks before the actual show date.
Yeah.
Done 4 weeks, 5 weeks by myself. Typically, I'm completely out of shape. I'm using anabolics. I'm dropping my food very low, and I'm pushing my body. And 5 weeks in, nothing's clicking. Okay. Nothing's working.
So you guys know, right? Typically, when you're getting ready for a bodybuilding contest, it's not just a prep, it's a whole year thing. You got an off season where you're building the body up, then you go into a contest prep. What's unique about this? Ayub at that time wasn't actually in a very good place in his life. So he didn't have an off season. He hadn't prepared an off season, but he felt like, you know what? If I dedicate myself to a goal, to a focus, something like a contest prep where it demands the best of you, that it'll get him back onto the straight and narrow and get him back into a positive routine. So you started that prep by himself, and first sort of month and a half, you're working hard, doing what you think is right, but you're getting fucking nowhere with it. You're not seeing the changes you want. And now you're closing in to what, 10, 12 weeks out, you're thinking, shit, I don't know if I'm gonna get ready in time.
Yeah, it was nearing about 10 weeks. And the issue is when you coach yourself and you're looking at yourself every day in the mirror, you're very critical of yourself as a person, right?
Yeah.
That's why I was pushing myself. I wasn't outside of the box. I didn't have a calm head on my shoulders. It was like, okay, I'm not progressing. more cardio. I'm not progressing less food. I'm not progressing more anabolics. And in reality, I probably was progressing a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm so critical of myself because in this 10, 12 weeks time frame, I've got to be standing on stage in nothing but my trunks. And I hadn't had a proper off season. I hadn't had a preparation leading into this. This was literally like a shotgun prep. It was like, I want to do this and I'm committing myself to it because I felt like I needed it more than ever. I needed something to ground myself, get myself back eating good, training good and feeling good. And nothing like a contest prep dedicates you more than anything to that. And that is where I was at. I just wasn't liking what I'm seeing. And you know, the issue is on social media, you're seeing all these people you're going to compete against.
Of course.
You know, people that are posting their bodies up day after day. And they're all better than me. They all looked better than me. I mean, it was just one of those things I was getting in my own head. And I know when I get in my own head, I know my personality, I know I overdo it. I overdo everything. So Matt...
I want to stop you there for 1 second because you make good points. You know, I often tell a lot of people, one of the greatest things about actually having a coach is that a coach can be very unbiased with the feedback and the guidance they give you because especially in bodybuilding, dysmorphia is rife amongst men, amongst women. And when you look in the mirror or you're looking at your pictures, it's very hard to be unbiased because you tend to look at yourself through a filter of how you feel, right? And if you don't feel like you're looking good or you don't feel like you're in shape, that's what you're going to see. And it's human nature that when you look at yourself in the mirror, especially in something like bodybuilding where you are hyper-focused on how you look, really, you tend to look at the points of your body in a critical eye. So you don't see what's going on. You see what you don't like. And that can lead you to crazy decisions where you over-diet, over-drug, and so many people do that in a panic because now we've got the influence of social media, like Ayub said. So you're looking at all these other people thinking, shit, I'm behind, I'm not going to make progress, I need to take more drugs, I need to diet harder, and your fucking head's in a spin. So you decided, if I carry on like this, it's going to be a kamikaze mission.
Yeah, I'd competed before, and I knew what it would take.
Yeah.
I knew what it would take. But I like After said that, when you're in your own head, you look at yourself every day, day in, day out. You're locking yourself away from social events, and all you're doing is working and eating and training. It's all you think about.
Absolutely.
It becomes like a drug where you're sedated with it all, 24/7. And Matt is someone I've been following for years on the forums. He was getting his name further and further out there in the industry. He started to coach people in the Olympia.
Yeah.
He was Terence Ruffin's coach.
Yes.
I know he helped Shalon Clarida and some other people that he was helping at the time. And I begged him. I messaged Matt time after time after time, can you take me on? And he wasn't taking on any amateurs per se.
Yeah.
He was like people that were going to turn pro or were pro. And because I was on the forums at the time, and because we kind of like had a bit of a relationship on the forum, he said, you know what? Why not? He goes, I believe I can get you to win, but you're going to have to do everything that I say. And here's the thing, that automatically felt like I had another chink in my armor. It felt like I felt confident because of the coach I was going to.
This is such a good point. You know, guys who are new, so for the new generation, right, watching this, online coaching now today is basically littered, right, with people who are using online coaching primarily as a business to try and make money. You see it all the time. 5 spaces left. I'm looking for 5 people who can do this, right? And it's like a big marketing front. There's so many sharks in the water. Back then, what I loved about it is the coaches that were providing the online coaching, man, they were fucking obsessed with bodybuilding. That was their life. That was their passion. And they were excited to actually help people, to share their knowledge, share their secrets, and get you into amazing shape. Like, they were all in. It wasn't about how many clients can I get, how much can I charge. It was all about the purity of bodybuilding, sharing their knowledge, and getting their clients into amazing shape and being invested in their clients, not looking at them as numbers. And before he goes deeper, that is one thing that me and him have made damn sure to carry on into our coaching, because we are both passionate. 23 years we've been obsessed and passionate about this lifestyle. And still to this day, our whole thing is getting excited to share that knowledge with people, to get them in the greatest shape of their life. So when Matt came back to Ayub because you know what it was? Matt wasn't interested. He wasn't interested in taking Ayub's money. He wasn't interested in getting another sale. He was like, look, I'm busy working with pros. I'm busy working with amateurs turning to pros. But you know what? When he saw Ayub's situation and he saw how much this meant to Ayub, he was like, you know what? Look, I'll help you, but no fucking around. You got 10 fucking weeks to get into the best shape. Getting into contest shape is not like getting into shape for fucking Instagram. How many bodybuilders have you seen who look amazing in Instagram? Put them on stage, they got soggy glutes, they're flat, they look nothing like their pictures. It's not like getting ready for a photo shoot or the beach. Bodybuilding competition, you're standing under bright lights, you're standing in a pair of trunks, you're getting judged by a panel, you're getting compared to athletes who have put hard work in. You cannot afford to slip up. You've got to come in dynamite condition. And 10 weeks, I can tell you as a coach, he can tell you as a coach, I personally would be very reluctant to take somebody on at 10 weeks because you know what it is? That's your fucking name on the line. And 10 weeks is not enough time to really transform a person's body. And that is why this prep that we're going to go into is so special because you know what? Matt nailed it.
What's interesting is I actually contacted a few other coaches around about the time I contacted Matt because he wasn't getting back to me. I emailed him.
So you're panicking, aren't you?
Panicking. So I messaged 3 or 4 other coaches, good coaches, similar, not at Matt's level, but I would say they were passionate. They coach through passion, not through business. And they all rejected me. They turned around and said, we don't know why you're choosing a show that's so close. You're not going to be ready in time. You know, that pick a later date. But I was fixated on that date because in my head, that date needed to be achieved because that's where my life would turn around. Because, like I said, I was in a rut. I didn't... For someone that's been so regimented, training, eating, and having a routine, for me to get up on a Saturday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and just diddle about with my day, just mentally didn't work for me. So I needed that structure. Matt said, let's do it. And that's the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, because this show for you, it wasn't actually a strategic bodybuilding move where you could have said, you know what? I want to get in the best shape. Because I tell people this all the time. The best way to approach a contest is get into great shape first, then pick your shows that you're going to do. That way, you ensure you're going to bring the right condition onto stage rather than rushing into a show. But for Abe, he wasn't doing it as a strategy for bodybuilding. It was more like, man, I need to do something because I need to turn my life around. And I know that if I'm focused on a show that's close by and I have to produce my best result and I have to go all in, it's going to fucking straighten me out. And that's what I love about this lifestyle. The most beautiful thing about building a body is this, is that it still remains one of the purest things that you can do. Do you want to know why? Because to build a great body, you can't fucking buy it, even if you're a billionaire, right? You can't rent it, you can't finance it, you can't borrow it, you can't cheat it, you can't fake it. You actually have to put the fucking work in. You have to be organized, you have to be disciplined, you have to be committed, you have to be consistent. And do you know what that does? It doesn't just build a body, it fucking builds you and it puts your mind in a state of success.
Yeah, machine mentality, that's what I call it. The show was just, at the time, organization was massive. They had good sponsorship deals, it had really good publicity.
Yeah.
But for me, I knew that if I was dedicated to something, I was eating a structured meal plan, I had someone to be accountable to, I had, the time out of work I was spending in the gym. I had no other time for bullshit.
Yeah.
See, when you've got time on your hands, that's when you start to invite bullshit into your life, right? So it's almost like, well, it's Saturday night, what am I going to do? Let's just go out. Then that going out, spend a bit of money on drinks, you could end up in a bit of trouble. And this is rinse and repeat process. And then months go by and nothing's changed. Whereas because I was dedicated to a show, which I knew was going to take up every ounce of my day outside of work, I had no other time for anything else.
You're laser focused, weren't you?
Laser focused. There was no time for negativity or drama. It was like, wake up, complete each task, go to bed, rinse, repeat. And I knew that process in itself will start to straighten me out, because when you don't have something in your life that's a focus, it's almost like, well, what do? You wake up, where's your day going? Like, you just kind of like go from one place to another. And I've done preps before. And I knew at that time in my life when I've prepped for competitions, I made my best progress with relationships. I made my best progress with finances, with friendships and so forth, because it was almost like, like those friends that you have that you just kind of like dossing around with, wasting time with, I ain't got time to waste for them. It's almost like, no, I've got shit to do. And they text you, let's go out. It's almost like, no, I've got to go for this goal. And that built me. The process is what I was looking to build me. The competition was like the icing on the cake.
I really love that you mentioned that because it's so true. Look, one thing that I can tell you, one of the best things that you can do in life is sit back and observe. And I'll tell you why. When you look around you, right, depression is rife, right, in today's modern society. And I talk to a lot of guys, I talk to a lot of girls, obviously because I coach a lot of people, right? People come to you in bad positions. And one of the key things is that when you talk to a lot of people don't actually have a goal. They don't actually have a focus. They don't have a purpose to get up and work to. And doing something like this, a lot of people look on the outside as it's a vanity project. But I can tell you now, from coaching over 5,000 people, right, that I've had so many people come to me where they've come out of bad relationships, toxic relationships, where they've been in really difficult situations in their life. They've come to me to turn their life around by getting into better shape, to feel better about themselves, have a positive routine. And the reality is, they built the body, but the goal was they changed their fucking life around for the better.
Yeah, that is something that I've noticed with all the people I've worked with. They come for a physical goal. You know, they want to look better, they want to lose a bit of weight or whatever, but they develop so much more than that because what they're eating is good.
Yeah.
They have better mental focus, better mental clarity, better energy. They just feel better within themselves, right? And now they're starting to feel what they're truly capable of. Because if you're taking someone from a situation, right, where they're not liking what they see in the mirror, and all of a sudden, them putting a bit of time into themselves is actually, you know, it's paying dividends. It's like, I'm doing this. Because as a coach, we kind of lay out the foundation. We give you the map. We are the sat-nav, right? We point you in the right direction. We give you the guideline, but the person still has to execute the food, the training, the consistency.
Teamwork effort.
It's a team effort, right? And it's almost like they're starting to realize what they're capable of. And you see a person go from a journey, right, where they've come to you, they're in a very, let's be real, right? People don't come to us because they're in great places. The majority of the time, something's gone on in their life, or their life's been going in a certain direction for a period of time, and they want change. And you see that first form that they fill out, the application, they tell you how they're feeling and what's going on in their life, and then all of a sudden, you start to see a person being built through this journey. They want to do more. They're more motivated. They're cutting out toxic friends. They haven't got time for toxic relationships. They're spending their money on things which are bettering them rather than wasting their money on things which are destroying them. You understand? Like, it's kind of like you've got this focus now, and having that accountability and working with somebody that you trust because you see they have the resume, they've got the clients, they've got the stories, gives that person the confidence that they didn't actually know that they had.
Yeah.
This is the thing, you're bringing out the best in someone via this portal of workouts and exercise and, you know, your nutrition. But that's laying dormant in everyone. That's not something that's come from thin air. That's inside each and every person. But if you don't have someone in your life that helps you analyze yourself in that sort of manner, then how do you know it's sitting inside of you? We've got people that you would look at that you would never think they might get to the position that they're in, but they have.
Yeah, so, and what I like about it is that you're not just talking this, preaching it, you lived it with this prep. So getting back to Matt, now Matt says yes, now you feel almost like a sense of elevation within yourself. Okay, I can do this. I've got Matt behind me. He's going to help me. So why don't you tell us where those first 5 to 6 weeks were shitty for you because you're doubting yourself, you don't know what to do, you're just guessing what to do, you're just throwing everything you can at it. How did Matt start it off?
Yeah, Matt picked me up in a mess. My anabolics were very high at the time.
Do you mind going through them?
Yeah, I've got it all here on my phone.
So this is when you've got to understand when Abe gets set up. So Abe at this point in time was on self-destruct, right? Because he felt he's behind. He thought, well, the only way to, and like many of you watching this have done in your own preps, you get behind and you think the answer is steroids, right? I take more and more. Yeah,
I was in a panic state. You got people there, they got 6 packs 10 weeks before the show, and I'm walking around with belly.
Belly and tits.
Let's be real.
Titties, bellies.
You know, I did not look like I could go on stage in 10 weeks' time. If that was a client of mine, I would say do a later show.
So give us an example of what you were taking.
So at the time, I was doing macros were 255 protein,
okay,
150 carbs,
yes,
and I only had fats from salmon.
Okay.
Training was 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Cardio was 40 minutes every day.
40.
40.
Yep.
And the cycle was 500 test P,
Okay.
350 milligrams of Masteron propionate, and 1 milligram of Irimedex every other day. That was what I was doing.
So you'd think, listening to that, cardio every day for 40 minutes, macros are not really that high. High protein, I would say, honestly, moderate to low carbohydrate and very low fat. Drugs in quite a heavy position at that stage of the game. And you're not really seeing anything. So what is the first sort of change that Matt began to make?
Well, if you look at it like this, right, I was on 2,000 calories roughly a day.
Yeah.
And my total anabolics was about 850 milligrams.
Okay.
So what Matt did is Matt put my calories up to 3,000.
First thing, unorthodox, and something I do with a lot of clients, is he's 10 weeks out from a prep. He's panicking. He's on low calories. He's thinking, I can't get into shape. I'm fucking carrying fat. I've got a belly at 10 weeks out. I would be, with my own clients, very worried if they're carrying like a belly at 10 weeks out. So Matt puts his food up. What did you think at that point?
Well, I actually questioned Matt. Matt put my food up. So my macros were 250, 150, and trace fats, right?
Yeah.
Then it went to 300 protein,
Yeah.
315 carbs, and 50 fats.
So at that point, you're thinking, fucking hell, man.
And 7 meals, which I hate doing.
So he spread that into 7 meals.
Yeah.
And at that point, what did you say to him?
And he dropped all my drugs down.
What did the drugs drop down to?
Well, this is interesting, right? So he done my test propionate
Okay, test P.
at 50 milligrams a day.
50 milligrams a day.
So that was 350 for the week. Mars propionate was 50 milligrams a day.
Okay, 700 milligrams total then.
And then trenbolone acetate was a quarter of a mil a day, with 25 milligrams.
Okay, so we've got I like that cycle. So you got, and I like the microdosing. Well, let's say the daily approach. So 50 milligrams of test P a day, 50 milligrams of Masteron a day, 25 milligrams of trenbolone acetate a day, right? He's put your food up. Now, you get that plan through to you. What are you initially thinking? Are you thinking, what the fuck's going on?
Well, the thing is, I asked him.
Yeah.
I asked him. I said to him, I'll get this email up, right? So I said to him,
We're literally reading. It's sad, you know, because Matt's no longer with us.
yeah, Matt passed.
This what we got here. It's really like pleasant memories.
Yeah, Matt passed 2 weeks away after the shows.
We want to honor him in this podcast. He's an amazing coach. Absolutely. If you research Matt Porter, even till this day, that man isn't even around anymore, yet you can still learn from the knowledge that he put out on his YouTube channels, on the forums. An incredible mind that we lost too early.
So I went away with the changes. I didn't say anything to him initially. I just got excited.
Yeah, of
and I'd done my
course.
first check-in with him. And I'd lost 2 pounds.
So your food's gone up.
My food's gone up and I've lost 2 pounds. And I said to him that I feel completely full all the time. And I'm feeling pumped a lot. I think it's how much carbs I'm eating.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with the 7 meals a day.
Yes.
And he said to me that you look good and I have a feeling that if you will respond if you do everything I say.
I like that.
And I said to him, can I drop the food down to 5 meals? And he said to me, you can. The volume will stay the same,
Yeah.
like in terms of the amount of calories. But he goes, you'll find yourself starving within the next 2-3 weeks. So keep the 7 meals in.
Okay.
And
That's good.
he was right when he said that. And then I said to him, look, I said to him, I have a question. With the amount of food I'm eating, is this to restart my metabolism or fat loss? Feel good, but I've never ever eaten this much before at this stage. He goes, you put yourself in a really shitty position before you were very lean and you had nothing to pull from.
Absolutely true. Again, it's all about tactics and strategies. If you go into a prep in a kamikaze approach and you find yourself that you're hitting a wall and your calories are low and you still got tons of fat to lose, what have you got to fucking maneuver?
See, this is what is beautiful, having experience from the coaches that we've had over time, because those words will never leave me.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, when I came to him,
Yeah.
and we talk about calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. He didn't look at the calorie deficit. He looked at how it actually looked.
Again, something I keep fucking preaching. Look, I'm not saying calories in versus calories out don't work. They do. You want to lose weight? Calories in, calories out. You want to gain weight? Calories in, calories out. But when you're trying to build a body in a bodybuilding sense, how you fucking look matters. The fullness of the muscle, the performance in the gym, your recovery.
Yeah, so that was the beautiful thing, right? I came to him, 2,000 calories. It wasn't a case, let's diet hard, let's diet harder.
Yeah.
It was like, you're looking thin.
Yeah.
Like in terms of, even though I was fat, my body didn't have a pop.
You were fat and flat.
Fat and
Worst
flat.
combo.
And the thing about it is this is why having an eye, and you only develop an eye by doing this for years and years and years upon end. He even put on the form, when I filled out the application, I don't even care how much you weigh.
Wow.
Because I don't care about how much you weigh. But he goes, you could put it down for reference, right? And he looked at my body, and I think before he even read my diet, he knew I needed more food. Just knew it, right?
Yeah, because I can tell you from, like, as a coach perspective, immediately when somebody sends me their pictures, the first thing I'm looking at is what is their body shape like? I can instantly tell when somebody's body can take more carbohydrates, even if they don't think they can, but you could tell from the actual muscle itself.
And that was translating into what was going on before I came to Matt, right? So my gym sessions weren't the best.
Yeah. Bet you were getting no pump.
No pump, real pump, and my weight was staying the same. If not, it was going up. So a lot of people, when their weight stagnates and they're in a kind of like a harsh calorie deficit, it's almost like we need to go harder. Whereas learning that from Matt, it's not necessarily you need to go harder. You need to actually pull back to get that springboard effect. And I'll be honest with you, if there was any other coach that told me to do that, I probably would have just done my own thing. But because I had so much respect for him, because of the amount of years he'd been doing it, the amount of transformations he had, the amount of, he don't miss. Like, he didn't miss a peak with nobody. I believed in what he told me. Yes. And that belief that you have in a coach, because of the relationship you have with them, because of the things they've done with other people, you know, you've got to trust. You've got to trust what that person says.
Absolutely.
And I think that was key for me, because he was like the Guardiola, the Sir Alex Ferguson, the Jose Mourinho of coaches. He was the best of the best, man. He had people lining up wanting to work with him. So I just done it because I didn't want to lose that spot. So yeah, the body started responding. And at the same time I was doing this, I contacted John Meadows.
Unbelievable mind. Again, just like Matt, please, right? We want to honor these guys. You research John Meadows, you watch his videos, you see the site that he had. This guy put so much in to educating the bodybuilding world when it came to training and nutrition and everything. So you reached out. What actually made you? Why did you? So you're with Matt, right? Now you feel like, fuck, okay, I got someone in my corner, a top coach. I can't miss this guy. Look at the transformations he gets. He doesn't miss. What made you then think, well, I'll go to John for the training?
John, in my opinion, is probably one of the best trainers of all time when it comes to programming training, when it comes to how to execute a movement.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, he gets you to think about what you're doing. So it's not like a training plan where it's like, hey, let's do 4 sets of 8 reps on a bench. It's like, let's do it this way. You should be feeling this. And this is how you're going to progress through that lift, right? So it's almost like not getting it from point A to point B. It's like what you do with that in between. So Matt wanted me to train 7 days a week.
Right? That's interesting. So he's on a prep, and a lot of people say that's overtraining, right? Now, obviously, look, for the natural scientist who calculators are blown up right now, understand, yes, on anabolics, you can fucking train a lot. So Matt's telling you, look, we got no time to waste. None. You need to be fucking training 7 days a week.
Yeah, Matt, I was still doing the 7 sessions of cardio a week at 45 minutes. Yeah. My training went to 7 days per week from the 6 I was doing, but that correlated to the food because now I had the food to perform and recover.
Yes.
Right? Which kind of like allowed me to train, but and give more total output. So it's kind of like building my metabolism, getting my look fresher, but still with the goal of fat loss in mind. So keeping that expenditure out through training at this stage, right? Not just dropping calories. When you do drop calories, your body does go into a state where it starts to hold on to body fat if it's too stressed. So he put the food up. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I got no money, but I got to invest everything into this because I've got one fantastic nutritionist on one side. I can do my own training. But like I said to you, before I start the prep, I know if I was to do my own training, that 7-day training, it would just be craziness.
You basically do one, leave any stone unturned.
Yeah, I did 7 days training. I think I personally would overtrain.
Yeah.
So I contacted John,
Yeah.
and he sent me a training plan, which was 7 days a week training, and it was single body parts. It was like chest and shoulders, back, hamstrings, shoulders again, legs and arms. That's 6 days, and then there's a 7th day of chest. So you kind of like done all the body parts over 6, and then you started that body part on the 7th day.
So yeah, so basically every 7 days you would hit a body part, each body part a second time.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing about John, because he knew the time frame I had, because he knew the nutrition I was on and everything, I was transparent with him. I never felt burnout from the training. So the training sessions felt like it was a good pump, good mind-muscle connection. I could have done more, but because the training plan told me not to do more, I didn't. And that's what saved me through prep, because think about it. The prep I did was 10 weeks. I didn't take a day off training or cardio.
Wow.
So I trained straight.
The whole prep.
The whole prep. 7 days a week.
Soak that up. He trained for the full 10 weeks to pretty much the final peak week, every day, and cardio every single day.
I didn't feel fatigued. I didn't feel fatigued for the reasons of this. I think number one, my anabolics weren't high. I mean, it's the lowest I've ever used for a show.
Yeah. Again, showing, I keep echoing through this, you guys. Like, yes, we all know drugs work, okay? We all know drugs enhance your results. But, you know, it makes me laugh, because I'll see people comment on stuff that I put out at times, and like, oh, it's all drugs. Do you really think, like, Jamie, I'm asking you a question personally. Do you really think that how you get into shape for a contest is a coach says, drugs, 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 drugs? You think the nutrition doesn't matter? You fucking think the training doesn't matter? You think the cardio doesn't matter? That all matters. Drugs enhance the results you get from that. But if you ain't doing that shit, you don't just sit on your ass, watch Netflix and toss yourself off and take drugs and get into contest shape, do you?
Yeah, what drugs do? They allow you to push harder without the risk of muscle loss. Yes. So what a natural needs 20 weeks to do, you could do on 10 weeks. Why? You can push the cardio, you can lower the food, and you're still going to retain strength and muscle tissue. Naturals cannot do that. If they go to that level for too long, they're going to lose muscle tissue. So it was the lowest I ever used. It was the best I've ever felt. And for the whole of the 10 weeks, I never felt like I needed a rest day, ever.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry to interject. You know your training. If we look at the training component for the 10 weeks, was that a routine that was kind of like, where it's a repetitive routine, or did it change during that 10 weeks? So I'd be interested to know.
John changed my training every training session. So like...
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, like, so...
Confusion takes... Oh, God, the scientists have gone mad. They say you can't confuse a muscle.
Sometimes he overlapped body parts. So there would be some weeks where I would train chest twice. There'll be some weeks where I train shoulders twice. But he would account for the volume.
You know, you said you changed... So you said that John would change throughout the prep. John was changing your training routine, as in like the way you attack the muscle each week. Is that in rep ranges, or is that in intensity techniques? Is that in volume?
The volume would be, he would write a total volume for the workout, right? So it would say chest, I don't know, 4 exercises, 12 total sets, right? But the exercises would change. So, you know, on one day I could be doing, say, for example, I've done 3 exercises for chest. It could be like an incline press, a flat press, and a dip. And the next one could be like a hex press, a cable fly. And, you know, like he might even do something like a push-ups pump with a hammer press, strength press. So the exercises did change. And I think that kept me motivated.
I love that. Do you know why I love that? Because today we live in a world where, like, people are indoctrinated that you can only do things one way. I think actually, think about it from a perspective of training itself in its purity. It must be exciting that every session you're doing, you're hitting the muscle in a slightly different manner.
Yeah, and because he programs it and you just follow it, it's like when I would go back and look at the week, because I was just doing it as I was getting, I would look back, because that's what I used to do when I weren't eating or training. I was reading stuff online. I take notes of every coach I've worked with over the last 20 years. I take notes of what they do. I put it into like my own way of understanding it, because I always felt that at some time it might be useful for myself or for clients to like pull up a bit of literature and be like, well, I was over dieting then and he fed me up and it worked. So maybe this client needs to be fed up, right? You start to see these responses. So when he done his training, you kind of look back and be like, hang on a minute, this week we trained back twice, but the first back session was mainly lats, and this back session was mainly thickness. I wasn't even thinking that at the time, right? It was almost like just follow the plan. Yeah. hang on a minute, this chest session was more upper. This was more like flat. These shoulders are more pressing. This is more side lateral. Like, he just mixed it up so much.
Such an out-of-the-box thinker, really.
Yeah, and it contained me. Because you've got to look at the personality that you work with when it comes to even your clients, right? There are people out there, I find it's very rare to get someone who's middle ground.
Yeah.
You get people who are either all or nothing, right? And I'm like the all in. So for some, the training plan was like, okay, you've done your workout, go home and eat. Whereas if I'd done that based upon how I felt, I'd be like, well, maybe I could do another half an hour, 45 minutes, think it's going to be better.
I really think that's a problem for a lot of people, is knowing when to cut off, because you think, have I done enough? Can I do more? Am I really going to make results? But having John take care of that and seeing the results that John's got and knowing how much John invests into designing these training programs, you didn't go by how you felt. You went by what he was programming for you.
I went by what he was programming for me because, like I said, I trust in his training. If you type John Meadows on YouTube, if there's ever an exercise you struggle to do, just type him in, and he's got a whole library. And this guy was giving this stuff out for free, man. Like him and Matt Wood. To me, I think that they've been a bit diluted in what's going on in the industry today. I mean, their methods were basic to the point that it worked. But yeah, I contained myself, and it's almost like, because I knew that I had 10 weeks to get into shape. I couldn't suffer an injury. I couldn't suffer a day where I've hurt myself, because I needed to be on point every day. And I stuck to what he told me to do. I had no joint pain. I felt strong. I actually got stronger through the prep.
That's something.
And that's something that doesn't really happen with me. I don't normally get stronger. I got stronger because it was the most amount of food I'd eaten. Funny enough, it was the most amount of protein I'd ever eaten.
Yeah, the thing about it is, if you look at it, what you've got is from both perspectives, where your personality type and the anxiety and the fear that you're going to not come in shape, right? Where you would normally go into that kamikaze mode and destroy yourself. Yeah. Both coaches were saying, no, let's pull back and do this properly.
Yeah, we didn't.
Let's not panic.
Yeah, we didn't do any intensifiers. It wasn't like drop sets or supersets. Yeah. There might have been like a superset in terms of like, do some press ups in between this, but it wasn't like there wasn't many intensifiers. It was straight sets, move on to the next, stimulate, not annihilate.
I love
and that worked really well for me.
Famous Lee Haney said that. Lee Haney always said that.
And do you know what? When I was doing his training, because he details each exercise, for example, 2-3 seconds on negative, pause on the stretch position, go to 3/4 rep, do not lock out.
Yeah, so he's adding that third dimension where normally you would look at a routine and it's like rudimentary numbers. And I always say you can't build a body through numbers. Don't go into the gym and just focus on numbers unless you're a powerlifter, right? Because he's not only telling Abe the exercise to do, but the critical thing, and what I do with my clients as well, is he's telling Abe how to execute the movement and how to feel the muscle.
Yeah, and I told Matt I wanted to get John to do me a training program.
What did he say?
He goes to me, John's amazing, I trust him.
Don't you love that?
Do you know what?
Don't you love the camaraderie that coaches... Now coaches all dig each other. I see them. Yeah. They hate on each other. Have you noticed me and Abe will never put coaches down? Do you know why? Guess why? You don't build a coaching business by trying to put other coaches down, right? You should be empowering each other. We're all doing the same fucking job, trying to help people get into great shape. So you've got these two powerhouses who are happy to work with each other.
Yeah, and Matt was asking me what he's doing with me, and you know what it is? Because John actually prepped people for shows as well. He was a great prep coach.
Yeah, he didn't try to step on Matt's toes.
No, he didn't. He absolutely didn't. And for this prep, just for the record, it's the only prep I've done where I've not used testosterone. So, yeah, I didn't use any tests for the prep because...
We'll go into that.
I'll go into that.
So we covered the training. So you guys have got a good understanding. Now Ayub has gone from a position of kamikaze, like low food, tons of drugs. Well, not tons of drugs, but high drugs. Now you've gone with Matt, John, your training sorted, right? It's a beautiful routine where you're excited and motivated to do it because you've got a legend like John there. We know what you started the prep with, Matt. Now start to crawl us week by week through the prep. Because there's 10 weeks. So we're on 10 weeks. That's going to go from 9 weeks onwards.
So when I checked in, that was my first week check-in.
Yeah.
He said to me, like, you're doing fantastic, blah, blah, blah. He reduced the carbs slightly.
Okay.
And he made a little bit adjustments on the cardio. Now, the cardio, I think he added in like 12 minutes hit post-workout.
And how many times were you doing that?
Daily.
You see, I love HIIT. This is something that I do with every single client I work with. You've got to understand there's two forms of cardio, steady state and high intensity. The benefit of high intensity is the metabolic stimulation you get for hours and hours afterwards, right? Allowing your body to burn up fat for fuel. With steady state, it's more about the calories, or let's say the fat that you're burning during that duration. The two combined is a powerhouse. It really is. So you're doing 12 minutes a hit every day. 12 minutes hit every day?
14 minutes of hit.
40 minutes
with
hit.
a 45-15 cadence.
Okay, so 14 minutes of hit every day plus how much steady state?
45 minutes.
So you're doing 40, and how are you splitting that? You're doing 45 minutes in the morning?
I would do 45 minutes in the morning, and it would be 14 minutes after I train.
Okay, and you're training 7 days a week, so you're just banging that out afterwards.
It's the food. The food allowed me to do all this. If I didn't have the food,
So 9 weeks, how much did you reduce the carbohydrates?
So the carbs were at 310, and then they went down to 283.
So when you look at that in numbers, it doesn't
30
seem a
grams.
lot. It doesn't seem a lot, does it? But let's look at the mechanics of what's going on here. So first week in Ayub drops 2 pounds. Now, with all due respect, he had a lot more fucking than 2 pounds to lose, right? The next change that Matt makes is he drops his carbs down by what seems a ridiculously low number, just going from just over 300 to just 280s. So it's not a huge...
120 calories.
Yeah, it's not a huge deficit. 120 calories you might not even think you notice. Do you know what I mean? But what he's also done is now adding that HIIT cardio, which is going to absolutely, bolster his metabolic rate and allow him to burn more fat as fuel. So we're at week 9. What happens when that happens, when he adds that in? And did the drug stay the same at this point?
Matt didn't. My cycle. I'll share my cycle. I'll take a screenshot of it. It was that up until 5 weeks out.
Okay, so the test P,
which I didn't use.
You didn't use the test P.
No.
So what did you do?
I used Master On and Tren.
So you use the Master On and Tren only, no test. Master On and Tren, Master On at 50 milligrams a day, Tren at 25 milligrams a day, everyday shots. You run that up to 5 weeks out. So the drugs up to 5 weeks out were the Master On, Trenbolone. Any fat bonus?
No, so this is this. I'll say the cycle literally as I've got it on my phone.
Yeah,
right?
talk to 5 weeks out because we want to discuss the changes.
Week 10 to week 5 was Test P, Mast P, Tren A, Arimidex half every other day, and 2 IZGH. I couldn't afford the GH, I didn't use that. I did use the Arimidex. The test propionate I didn't do because I didn't like the injections, it was painful. So I was literally on Master On and Tren.
Zero test.
And
I'm going to go into this in another podcast because a lot of people think you need to use test. But actually, especially from the Middle Eastern world, you realize that test is not exactly necessary. But we'll save that to another day. So using Master On, Tren, Arimidex, up to 5 weeks out. So you add the HIIT cardio in, you bring the food down. Now where are we at 8 weeks out?
So at that, the week 3 check-in, at that point on this plan, on the changes, I dropped in total 10 pounds.
So 10 pounds pretty much in around 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now his weight's dropping. Now that body fat's coming off. Now he's starting to get a bit more confidence. Going from a position where he was on more drugs, less food, guess what? He's doing better on less drugs and more food here.
Matt said to me, I'm really impressed. You're reacting exactly as envisaged. See updated cardio and food changes. This will be your best transformation if you keep your motivation high.
Oh, I love
6
it.
weeks.
The confidence, you see, when a coach tells you that, it bolsters you, man, motivation-wise. And you think, yeah, you know what? I've got someone in my corner that believes in me and is going to take me all the way. So what are the next changes for you? And what weeks was that? About 7 weeks out now?
Yeah, so 7 weeks out, we lowered the carbohydrates again from 280 to 230.
So not a huge drop. 230 is still a good amount, a good number to be taken in during a prep, I'll tell you that much.
But then, this is what I've never had before with the coach, is the 30 grams of carbs that we reduced, or we reduced 50 grams of carbs, right?
Yeah.
So it was 310, then 280, now 230, which is 50 grams.
Yeah.
But then he upped my protein by 30 grams.
Yeah, and this is, again, like, why I keep telling, like, you can't, look, what it is this, is that if you look at things as calories, you might think, well, how does that work? Because you're increasing your protein, you're getting more calories. But what you've got to understand is protein works very differently in the body. Yes, your body can store protein as body fat through a process called glucogenesis. Is it likely? No. More than anything, you're going to use that protein for muscle building, repair, right? And also you're going to get a thermogenic effect of it. And usually, excess protein, you're just pissing shit out anyway.
Yeah, I think with protein, it comes down to how much you can digest.
Yeah.
So I never had any issues with digestion. And these meals for protein were all whole food. So you're looking 500 grams of egg whites in the morning, 7 ounces of chicken, 6 ounces of beef, 5 ounces of chicken, 5 ounces of beef, then a couple of scoops of protein powder after I train with cream of rice, and then it was eggs and whole eggs again.
So he's increased the protein out 7 weeks out. He's decreased the carbohydrates. So really net calorie difference is not much.
No, so if you reduce the carbs by 50, that's 200 calories, and you up your protein by 30, that's 120 calories. So it's about 80 calorie drop.
Okay. And did you do anything with the cardio at that point? Or was it...
Yeah, so the cardio I was doing in the morning, the 45 minutes, he wanted 15 minutes of that to be hit now.
Okay, so you're doing the first 15 or the last 15 you did there?
The first 15.
So it starts off, that's a good strategy because you're doing 15 minutes a hit. So your heart rate's going to already be very high. So maintaining like a zone 2 performance in the cardio will be easier. Yeah. So you're doing that. So you're not actually increasing your cardio. You're making 15 minutes of that cardio a lot harder, and you're still doing the hit after your training.
Yeah, so the hits after my training stayed the same, but the 45 steady I was doing in the morning, because of the first 15 minutes, I was jacking my heart rate up so much.
I love it.
Like that 45 minutes, say you normally would burn 450 calories. That was now going at like 550, 600 because I've worked harder through that 45 minutes.
Exactly that. So more, rather than increasing the cardio, you're getting more out of the cardio. And I actually do that because what I'll do with clients like who I'm pushing and then for the fat loss and all that is I'll say to them, start with inclined treadmill, and then I'll start to say to them, look, do now 15, 20 minutes where you're doing stair mill, right? And then go to this inclined treadmill. So you do that with your cardio. No changes, the diet's changed, higher protein, lower carb, no change in drugs. What's the next check-in? How much have you dropped? What's going on here? What's Matt saying?
So that was so fast 10 pounds down. I actually dropped 3 pounds between check-ins, but he still pulled the food down. And it's a lot harder. One point I want to make, the leaner you get and the fitter you become, the harder it is to actually get your heart rate up.
Of course it is, because the heart's becoming fitter, and the body's such a clever machine. The body, what you've got to realize is that we're caught up in a world now of technology and all that, and technology is great, but you're living in a biological machine that is unfucking believable, that we cannot replicate right now. That you think about it this way, that your body is so fucking clever in its adaptation that you could be doing cardio every single day, and guess what? Your body, because your heart's getting fitter, will expend less and less energy to do the same task. So that's why Matt's pushing him to work harder. So you do that 7 weeks out. Where are you now 6 weeks out? What's the weight now, total loss?
So the week 4 check-in, oh, this is beautiful, I love this. So week 4 check-in, I was down half a pound.
Just half a pound, right?
From last week, doing all the cardio, the training. What did I say? I said to him, my appetite's been really hungry. I've been really, really hungry. Even though I'm on I feel like I'm on a lot of food, it goes through my water. I keep waking up at 2 a.m. I'm so hungry.
That's
I feel good. I feel good the first thing in the morning, and the day goes on. I just look worse and worse and worse. And and in the morning, said egg whites. So the egg whites have had some whey isolate. We've got 5 weeks to go, man. Pedal to the metal. He goes, you're looking good. I know you're doing everything to plan because your body's reflecting that. See the updated cardio and diet changes. I bet if you do some giant sets, with further conditioning, if you haven't really thought about putting it in.
Oh man, I like that. So at 6 weeks out, what's he doing? He's increasing your cardio again.
So I've sent him the check-in.
Yeah.
He's given me the feedback.
Yeah.
And he sent me the changes, right? And these changes at this point, 1 second, phase 4. The check-in at this point, the carbs were 230, weren't they, I said?
Yeah.
They're now down to 180.
So far on the prep, one of the biggest drops you've had in carbs.
Yeah, that was about 60, 65 pound carb drop. But then my protein at the beginning was 300, then it went to 330, now it's 380.
Bloody hell. That's a hell of a lot of protein.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of protein.
I can't believe it, because here you are getting into amazing shape, eating 300 grams of protein. And when I went onto Instagram, an influencer that looks like he's never trained in their lives Tommy, you can't absorb more than 25 grams of protein in a meal. Yeah, here he is doing it.
So
Theory and studies, they don't trump practical application.
So I was on about 2,300 calories. So
Yeah.
we started on 3,000 and it's down to about 2,000.
Yeah, because what you got is an oscillation. Your carbs are going down, but your protein's going up.
Yeah, so what you also did was lowered my fat by 15 grams. So I was on 50 grams. And now it's down to 35 grams per day.
Still a decent amount of fat, though.
Yeah.
If you get it for good fat sources.
I had a whole egg.
He had a whole egg.
And then
one whole egg.
one of my beef meals were changed to turkey.
I do that a lot. One of the things that I do with clients is you start with fatty protein sources. And what it is smart. Because if you take a fatty protein source, okay, so let's say you're starting your fat loss phase off and you're using chicken thigh, using 10% or 20% beef. What's clever is you can replace that with a lean protein source like turkey or fish or chicken breast. The volume of the food in the stomach stays the same, but the actual caloric intake is vastly changed.
Yeah.
So you do that at 6 weeks out.
Cardio's up. He added another 5 minutes a hit to the morning. So that 45 minutes.
Yeah. Still remained 45, didn't it?
No, it went up to 50.
50, yeah.
Because the hit went from 15 to 20.
Okay.
So you're doing a 15-minute total cardio session, and 20 minutes of that is a hit,
Okay.
and half an hour is steady.
That's every day.
Every day.
And you're still doing the 14 minutes after training, and you're still training 7 days a
after
week.
training one went to 17 minutes.
So that's gone to 17.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. After training one, I didn't do, he said 17 minutes of hit, but I didn't do the whole thing 70 minutes hit because I was fucked. You know what I mean? I understood my body a little bit. So I did kind of like just push my cardio hard. It wasn't necessarily hit, like all of it. I was just pushing myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're just working your hardest.
Yeah, working hard because Matt trusted me to do a few. He knew I could get people to shape.
Now with the giant sets, did you add the giant sets?
I didn't add the giant sets, man. I spoke to John, and John said just keep doing what we're doing. Like Matt thought that adding some extra volume, what he's trying to do is expend calories wherever he can, right? So it's almost like, okay, you're doing 45 minutes of cardio. Let's try and burn as much calories during that cardio session rather than adding more minutes on. You're going to train for an hour and 15. Let's try and burn more calories through the training in and itself. But I kept with John's training because it was working.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And just what I like, Matt said to me, I bet if you add this in, if you haven't thought about it already, try and give it a shot. He didn't force it upon me. He trusted me to sort of give him my own feedback. You know, a good coach, if you're experiencing the field, I'm not talking if you're a newbie and you don't even know your own body, but he knew me for years. I competed before, kind of like asking me how I feel, so how I get with clients that have worked with me for a long period of time.
Yeah, he understood that you have an element of knowledge where you understood your body's biofeedback.
Yeah, so it's like when you get a client that you've worked with for a period of time, right, and they're doing a contest prep, for example, and they're saying, like, I feel flat, I feel like I need a bit more food.
You're more inclined to trust that than a newbie.
Yeah, than someone being like, I'm hungry, and they're not, they shouldn't be hungry because of where they're at with their prep, because they're newbie to it, right? So that was what we did, and we added in 40 micrograms of Clen each morning.
And how were you taking that? Were you taking that Clen all in one go?
Yeah, 40 milligrams of Clen in one shot, and we added in 50 milligrams of Winstrol pre-gym.
Okay, this is at 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
So you're taking 40 micrograms of Clen extra. You're taking the Winstrol, which is obviously an incredible compound for contest prep, 50 milligrams from 6 weeks out. Where are you at 5 weeks out? What's the weight?
That was 5 weeks out.
So at 5 weeks out, right, you add this stuff in. So where are you then at 4 weeks?
4 weeks out, I would...
Because obviously, as you get deeper into a prep, those last couple of weeks, the drugs you use are really important, okay? Because it's what's going to give you that sort of Photoshop filter finish, as I've told you guys so many times.
I dropped 1.5 pounds from that change. So you saw a lot of weight drop through the beginning.
Yeah.
And now the weight is starting to slow down.
But plus, you've got to understand with extra anabolic agents, because when you add these sort of orals are very powerful, man. They work quickly. So what catches a lot of people off guard, and I've been through it myself, you add something like an Anavor or a Winstrol in to the end of a prep, and your weight starts to climb up a little bit, right? Or it doesn't drop as much. But that shouldn't panic you because the oral's having the effect that it should do.
To be honest with you, when you see these pictures from week to week to week, I actually had put on muscle tissue.
You can see it, yeah.
Because if you look at the physique at the start of the 10 weeks, and you look at the weight was 217, and now I'm 207, 210 pounds. The amount of fat to like muscle gain is ridiculous because I look like that was way more than 10 pounds. Like the pictures look night and day difference. So
I think this is one of the biggest things when you do take gear and you take it properly is that you could start a prep and it would look like maybe you need to drop 30 to 40 pounds. But in actuality, you might lose a lot less than that on the scale and the shape change is just drastic. So you do this, you add the Winstrol in, clenbuterol, very mild dosage. Where are you now at 4 weeks out?
Just want to make a point with this, with Matt, is he actually, with the Clen, he added it in at 4 weeks out. Remember, there's no T3 being used here, or T4, which is what a lot of people use these days. And a lot of people bring in, I feel, Clen too early. I've never, even with me, with other coaches, with previous preps, Clen would start about 12 to 14 weeks out sometimes. Matt brought it in the last 5 weeks, and I really believe not only was that to take that last bit of fat off me, or it's another tool, right? You're doing all this cardio, your food's dropping down. How can you expend more calories without fatiguing the body?
Yeah, it's like trying to win a war. You've got to save, you got to save your ammunition for when the real battle's going to begin. So Matt really got you to do hard work, graft to get the main fat off. Now where he knows he's going to get into muddy waters with you, he starts to release that ammunition of the fat burners. So at 4 weeks that you're taking this, talk us through the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, so I added
the drugs, the diet, the cardio, fucking everything.
The Clem was, like I said, 40 micrograms in the morning, cardio was still the same, training was still the same, and so forth. These pictures look incredible, man. These pictures here, like the change is just crazy.
I'm assuming at this point now you're fucking feeling confident. You're probably feeling a million miles apart, a world apart from where you did at 10 weeks out. No, it's amazing what can be accomplished in 6 weeks of absolute focus and great knowledge and guidance.
To be honest with you, if you think about it, 5 weeks, I've changed so much, and given that much food at the beginning, I find it hard to believe. But because obviously I'm reading this now live, right?
Yeah, but let's not take away, you were working hard as well.
I was working hard, but do you know, like as I've gone further on with my own coaching and coaching people, I understand everything why he was doing it. I understand, look, my body's in stress position. Let's not give him cleanse straight away. Let's feed him up. Let's get him training and recovering well. Because cleanse a stressor. Cleanse a stressor on the heart, it's a stressor on recovery, it's a stressor on your sleep. He got my body primed to do this, right?
Well, let me tell you, to interject Ayub there, for you watching this, right, one of the signatures of a great coach is where they will work your body in a way where they get you into a great position without bombarding you with drugs, okay? They'll work it out through nutrition and training and cardio with just enough, and they'll save that drugs for later. Any coach that you work with that starts to just basically bludgeon you with tons of drugs, they don't actually know what they're doing. They're just using drugs to try and mask, right, the lack of understanding of nutrition and training and cardio.
That's why I felt so good on the prep, because even though I didn't have testosterone in my body, right, I felt good because I wasn't taking all these compounds which were making me toxic. Because I actually think that competing on steroids is harder than competing natural. And the reason why I say that is because when you're taking all these different things, they neurologically fuck you up.
No, absolutely.
They do.
And something that I talk about often is this, is that so many people, like bodybuilders are obviously the worst for this. You look at all these different compounds and the effects that you have, and in your head you're thinking, man, if I take this drug, that drug, this drug, right, and combine them all together, my God, the results it's going to produce. But all those drugs have to be filtered through the liver and the kidneys. And once your internal system becomes compromised and becomes toxic, and now your values are up, what you're going to have is a body that doesn't respond as well. So yes, less drugs in many cases can be more, unless you have superior genetics at handling drugs, because there are guys out there like that can take a lot and not have much side effect. But for most of us, more drugs actually is going to result in a more toxic body. A toxic body doesn't have harmony within its biochemistry, is never going to, one, produce the look or respond as well.
Yeah, and the thing for me is I've had preps to compare this with, and I'll go into that within another video that we do, where I took 10 times the amount of what I took with this prep. I can actually handle a lot of stuff. When I mean I can handle a lot of stuff, my body does not go through the symptoms that people's bodies go through. Some people's bodies, like the acne and the hair loss and all that stuff. I could take. Taking 50 milligrams of Winstrol a day compared to a previous prep of 150 is a big thing. Taking 25 milligrams of Tren a day compared to a previous prep of 100 per day is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
On top of the halo, on top of this, on top of that. So I've actually seen myself in two different lights. And I think with this, the reason why I felt so good is because it was how I should be feeling. It wasn't like, well, I'm tired. Now I've got 150 milligrams of Winstrol making me depressed. Now I've got 100 milligrams of Tren a day making me feel angry and anxious, and clenbuterol through the roof, like I can't sleep, and all these things make it a lot harder to deal with. And it was just the right thing at the right time.
To keep your body flowing.
When you cook the perfect meal, you don't mix everything in one go, do you? You just drop the ingredients in as and when needed, right? And that's what I learned from Matt, sprinkling what's needed. So we get to this point, we've added the Winstrol in, the clenbuterol's added in, the masks, the trends stay the same. The diet now, we were 183 grams of carbs, or 180 grams of carbs. That's now gone down to 115,
Okay.
which is basically pre, and post. So we were doing 25 grams of carbs in the meal, 2 meals before the gym, then 40 grams of carbs pre-gym, and then 40 grams of carbs post. All whole food.
So everything at this point is navigated around the workout window, really.
Protein went up from 380 to 390, so there's more protein again. So the protein has gone up a total of 90 grams throughout the prep, right? So every time you dropped some carbohydrates, you threw some protein in there. Not only does it keep you satiated, it keeps your calories up there a little bit more for you to be able to perform, because he's coaching me. He knows I'm training 7 days per week. He knows I'm doing all this HIIT cardio. HIIT cardio can burn into muscle tissue. So he's kind of like putting the protein there to protect me, right? But with the change in the diet also then came the refeeds. So you got to look at it like this. My body's been dieting down now strategically for 5 weeks. Calories have constantly got lower. I've trained every day. I've done cardio every day. Now my calories are getting to that 2,000 point. But I'm 206, 207 pounds. Carbs are now down to 115 per day. So he threw that refeed in of 500 grams. And it wasn't cereals and shit like that. It was literally 500 grams from cream of rice, rice and potatoes, which I loved. Because when you're on prep, you don't want cereal. You want proper filling food, because it's the only day I was refeeding.
Yeah.
And he threw that in to kind of like keep me moving forward. It wasn't just for the sake of it. It was like, okay, the guy's training all week. He's depleting all week. He's looking flat now, right? His carbs are very low. We've got to keep his body moving forward. So almost like what he did at the beginning, where he fed me up. We didn't have the time now to do that. So you've got to throw these refeed days in to freshen up the body, to restore glycogen, to still perform. But also it gives you an understanding, especially if you're on prep, that how do you handle carbohydrates, right? If you throw that 500 grams of carbs in, do you look better the next day? Do you look better 2-3 days later? You're almost getting feedback not only from the refeed, but also from a competition standpoint, like how you respond to carbs, right?
Yeah.
So we done the refeed. I dropped 4 pounds a week.
See, the refeed made a massive difference, because you've got to realize that when you do bring the carbs up when you've been working so hard, you're going to lower cortisol levels, you're going to lower inflammation, so you'll see a lot of that drop out as well. So now we're around three weeks out, aren't we?
3 days out from show.
Yeah.
I said to him, appetite's been crazy as always, but I don't feel fucked, and I usually do. Gym sessions are here and there. I feel good. He goes, so what Matt started to do now was the last 3 weeks we're digging. Yeah. So I'm weighing about 203 pounds. I knew about 195, 193 I'd be in shape for conditions of a stage. So he started cycling my carbs. So you had that 100 gram of carb day. He was doing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 100 grams of carbs. Thursday, Friday, 0 carb. Saturday, 500 carb, which is my refeed. Yeah. So it was like a 3 low, 3 base days, 2 super low days, and then a refeed. So it's just depleting me more into the refeed. We did that. The next week, I know this off by heart now. The next week, what we did was we had 3 100 gram carb days, didn't we? 4 100 gram carb days, 2 0 carb days, and 1 500 gram. It then went 3 100, 3 0, 1 500. And then it went 2 100, then 5 0, then the 500. The 500 gram of carb for me was enough to see the weight just drop off.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like the peak week.
But can I ask you, those last 3 weeks where he's doing that with your carbohydrates, so what he's doing is like a staggered carb cycle. For the last 3 weeks, he's pulling it back one carb day at a time, maintain the refeed, extending the period of no carbohydrates to accelerate fat loss. As you guys know, I'm a massive believer in carb cycling. And carb cycling is based on how our body responds and how our body looks. That's why it's my preferred method. I don't ever look at a client as calories. I always look at a client as building their body. When I'm working with obese clients, it's calories. Did your drugs change in those last 3 weeks?
No, they didn't.
It was still the wisdom.
Still the same, but I added in Halotestin in the last 10 days. That was something that I wanted to add in. I've used it before, worked really well with me. So
and what dosage were you taking of that?
20 milligrams of Halo for the last 10 to 12 days.
Halotestin, I have said this on record many times. Halotestin is one of the most amazing compounds that you can use towards the end of a prep. Honest to God, if you're lean enough, this is not an exaggeration. What I'm about to tell you is absolute gospel truth. When you're in great condition, when you add Halotestin at the right time, you can literally see your body harden up and get more vascular by the motherfucking day.
And Halo made me quite full. So you got to understand, I've gone this whole prep with no testosterone.
Yeah.
So nothing's keeping me full. I'm not using GH. So the Halo started to make me look fuller. I mean, for being on a prep with no test, I think my body looked fantastic. It was the driest it's ever been, hardest it's ever been. And it all just worked in sync. And taking this from 10 weeks out all the way to show day and winning the whole thing, winning every class, is incredible.
Yeah, and you know what? On a prep, think about it, he won his class and he goes on to win the pro card. And we're talking about going against people that are trained all year round, right? And this is a guy who went into this prep literally as to save himself, man. It wasn't about the prep. It wasn't about the trophy. It wasn't about. He didn't want to do it. That was never in his mind.
I lost my head though, didn't I, the last day?
Yeah, we're going to go into that. But it was just really to do something positive for his life. So talk us through the last peak week.
So peak week was Matt had peak week all laid out for me, and he set me up based upon what we were doing. The thing about Matt, the thing that he taught me, which is the most important, is water. Right? I had this big thing with all my previous preps, and what you see online is cutting water out. He said to me, you do not cut water. We keep water high throughout the whole prep, and we keep it high up until show, right? Because water, I've actually got the message from him here, and it's really sad because I'm going to go onto my Facebook to read this because I messaged him on Facebook, and it's really sad because obviously he's passed away now.
Yeah, while he was getting that up real quickly, one of the most misunderstood things, and a mistake that a lot of competitors make, is thinking that cutting water is going to make them drier. You can't outsmart your body, all right? Your body is what? It's an equilibrium machine, right? So if you pull water out, your body's like, I'm not getting that hydration. I'll fucking hold on to water. And then these idiots start adding diuretics in to think that's going to get them even drier. Water manipulation is key. I'm not going to deny that. Cutting water out, not a good thing. So come on, let's talk through this last bit, bro.
Yeah, so he set up my peak week. We done a carb front load because he said to me, "What is your goal for stage fullness? Or do you need to be really, really dry? Like, what is it they're looking for? Like, what is it you're looking to achieve?" And I said, "Look, Matt, I spill quite easily." So he goes, "The safest thing to do is to carb up early." So we carved up on. The show was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So we started carbing Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday was the day to like drop the carbs or carb up more, depending on the look. Yeah. Water was not dropped. He said to me in a message that I can assure you that water is 70% of the muscle, and something which has been so good to you all prep finally gets demonized on the day of a show. And he goes, people seem to think that they eat all these crazy burgers and stuff like that, and the next day they look great. They forget the one thing they done was drink water. This
is the big thing. Like, post-show, you hear so many people, "Oh, no, I look so much better the day after the show. If I looked like this the day on the show, I would have won." It's not your fucking burgers and your fucking cheat food you ate. It's called something called hydration. When the muscle's hydrated, it's fuller, it's harder, the skin is tighter. your muscles pop better. Therefore, imagine like a balloon pushing out against your skin. The separation, the vascularity, everything's improved. So you front loaded. So he didn't carb up into the show. He carved up before the show and then dried out to the show.
Yeah, dried out to the show just by cutting the carbohydrates back.
Yeah.
We didn't drop the water too much. I think if we were on like 2-3 gallons a day, it went down to by about half a gallon. So British term, let's just say I was on 6-7 liters a day. That was down to about 4 or 5, which is still a good amount. And then we did like half a diazide, which is diuretic.
Potassium sparing. Diazide is one of my favorite diuretics because what it is, potassium is needed, right, to keep that muscle full. If most diuretics strip the body of potassium, that's fucking dangerous. Diazide is very friendly because it will remove water, definitely help you remove water, but it will allow you to keep your muscles full.
Yeah, we did half a diazide about 2 o'clock in the afternoon of the day before, and then we reassessed the look at night, and we decided to drop another half a diazide, which brought me in the best I looked. And on the day of the show, just cruise in, had my normal meals. Like, it was just some granola in the morning and stuff like that.
And then you go out, and to your surprise, you win your class, right? And then you turn pro. How is that? That's a Cinderella story. How did that feel?
I felt like I was reborn again. I felt like it was a new chapter of my life. But everything that went on previously to me jumping onto this competition, it made sense. Because I always say to people, sometimes you do need to lose yourself a little bit in order to find yourself.
Absolutely.
And, standing there, I remember I had all the trophies and my brothers were there and I told them, he was late, he was working, like always. But I said to my brothers, look, take the stuff home. I need 5 minutes to myself, man, because I couldn't believe it. But I learned a lot about myself during the prep. I learned a lot in terms of coaching, like how you can train more and more and more as long as you regulate volume properly. How that just eating less and less food isn't always beneficial, what to pay attention for, like how to refeed. Like Matt was worth his weight in gold.
Yeah,
like
he was.
What he taught me and his interaction. And I just trusted everything he said. And I've kept all the notes from everything I've done because, when you're in that state of flow, you're just doing.
You're not analysing.
You're not analysing. But because I've got all these pictures, I've got all these messages. And even when I'm reading it now to you guys, it's like I can go back and feel exactly how I felt. I can now see what he would do before I've even read what he would do because I would do it myself, right? And when you look at my start pictures and my start diet, I would say to myself, you need to eat more food. And this is why working with a coach and you have longevity with, you have a time frame with, all those check-in pictures, whether it's a good week or a bad week, whether you're bulking or cutting, whether you're natural anabolics, all that information that you collect is data for yourself to use for the future. It's like a logbook. It's like a service history you have on a car that you can look back and say, oh, you know what? This was going well then, but since we've done this hasn't been working so well. I think that's what people tend to forget. People that check in with us, you get some people that send you so much information. You get other people that just send you pictures. Just pictures, not how their week's gone, not if their digestion's going well, how their sleep's gone, how their performance was. You got to understand, it's a diary.
Yeah.
I've kept everything I've done since 2006, from that date to this date, because it's memories.
Yeah.
It's memories, it's good times. And do you know what's interesting? That because I keep all this information, I'm very lucky because I was one of, if you go to Matt Porter's Instagram page, I think his wife still has it up, I was the last person he coached before he passed away.
That's why we're making this podcast. Because for us, look, man, we don't use our social media to just promote us. We just believe in great coaching. We just believe in freedom of information. We just believe in empowering you and enlightening you with transparency so you can make decisions and learn more. This is what it's all about for us. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this podcast, going through this contest prep, which was Ayub's best contest prep he ever did. One of Matt Porter's last ever clients that he ever coached. And really, again, as always, thank you for taking the time to watch. For more podcasts like this coming up in the future, make sure that you subscribe and you follow this channel. And what I say to you is, as always, we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to enlighten you. Enlightenment is the exchange of knowledge so that you have a full picture of everything that's involved in this lifestyle.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is the month that Matt passed away. He passed away on the 31st of May, which is ironically one day after my birthday. We won the show the 14th of April, and then 6 weeks later, he passed away. And to be honest with you, like, it is really, really sad because he was a childhood hero to us, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Like, because this relationship with Matt, it's almost like watching your favorite footballer on TV, and then all of a sudden that you now become friends with that footballer. This guy we followed on all the forums from the very first day. Do you remember?
Yeah, and he would always help, and so passionate and so kind and so giving and so caring. Not like today where it's just like a shark culture.
What Matt was is what's not left in the industry. And this was a guy that was posting, like Nate Norton, for example, posting his journey, posting his wins, posting his losses. He read everything online. There was one thing he didn't post online. He was giving information out that people would pay so much money for today, right? Everything was posting online. Then he started coaching a few friends. Then he started building his brand. And then you'd go online, you'd conversate with him on the forum. And then you would kind of like see if he had availability. He lived and breathed the bodybuilding sport and he loved it. And I could see that in how he coached me. And that experience for both of us is what we try to push with our clients.
We tried to keep that spirit and that ethos alive, and we hope you guys appreciate it. Because as much as this is about Abe's best contrast prep and give you an insight into how it all worked, it's more to honor Matt Porter.
Matt changed my life at that point. Everything went up, coaching, social media and so forth. And I'm so grateful for it, right? But that shows that how that change could be there waiting for you, where the script just flips. You know, just working on yourself. It's 10 weeks of my life, changed my life for the foreseeable future. It's incredible.
It is, and I'll finish on this. Jesus said, a man has to be reborn to enter the kingdom of heaven, a metaphorical statement that means to let go of everything that holds you down and keeps you back, to let go of that, and to embrace everything that is good, as painful as it may be, as a bigger change as it may be. Until you do that, you will never enter that kingdom of heaven, which is to be reborn in the greatest identity of you yet. Done. Thank you.